English, like most languages, can be tricky. This is especially true of subject-verb agreement. We likely grasp the concept that singular nouns, like dog, need singular verbs, like barks, and plural subjects, like dogs, need plural verbs, like bark. But what about when it's not so straightforward? This tutorial will review 5 confusing cases of subject-verb agreement, starting with confusing case number 1, using or nor. The rule is that when you're using or nor in a compound subject that contains a singular and a plural subject, the verb is going to agree with the closest subject to it. Let's take a look at an example to help that make sense. In the first example, my mom or dad, we're choosing between pays or pay the bill. The closest subject to the verb is dad. So essentially we can ignore mom or. Let's try reading it again. My dad, oh, now it's obvious, pays the bill. If we read the original sentence again, my mom or dad pays the bill, it might sound a little strange, but I promise it is grammatically correct. Let's try it with the next example. Neither the plates nor the serving bowl goes or go on the shelf. Ooh, it's a little tricky, so I'm going to cross this off and try just paying attention to the subject closest to the verb. The serving bowl goes on the shelf. That was much easier. Neither the plates nor the serving bowl goes on the shelf. Yeah, okay, it does sound a little weird, but it is grammatically correct. Let's try the next one. I'm going to cross this off. I am getting the lunch special. So neither she nor I am getting the lunch special. It's right. Let's cross this off. The vice president is speaking today. The president or the vice president is speaking today. That is correct. Let's move on to confusing case number 2. When the subject and verb are interrupted by a phrase or a clause. If that is the case, the verb should agree with the subject of the sentence regardless of what's interrupting it. So kind of like in the last examples where we ignore parts of the sentence, we'll do that again here. The highest percentage of voters is or are in favor. The subject of the sentence is percentage, not voters. So I'm going to ignore of voters. The highest percentage is in favor. If I read the original sentence, the highest percentage of voters is in favor, it might sound a little strange, but it is grammatically correct because we ignored the interrupting phrase or clause and made the verb agree with the actual subject, which was percentage, not voters. All of the mechanics, except the one smirking, that interrupts, so I'm going to ignore it, is or are honest. All of the mechanics are honest. The team captain was anxious. Excitement is the cause of her shaking. So just like in confusing case 1, we may want to actually cross off the parts of the sentence that are distracting and focus in on the subject that does need to agree with the verb. Let's look at confusing case 3. Confusing case 3 involves collective nouns. Collective nouns can be tricky because sometimes they refer to the group as a unit and sometimes they refer to the individuals or parts of the group. If the collective noun refers to the group as a unit, which is usually the case, then we need to use a singular verb. I have here listed some collective nouns that are often considered singular. You can see audience, club, committee, and so on all the way through team. However, if the collective noun refers to individuals or parts in the group, then the verb should be plural. Some of the collective nouns that are often considered plural are these. As you can see, there's a lot more examples of a collective noun being considered singular, as that is usually what the situation is. Let's take a look at some examples. The group of pirates was were infected with scurvy. Darn, I gave it away. But what we're going to do is ignore the of pirates and focus in on the collective noun, which is group. In this case, it's looked at as a unit, and for that reason we consider it singular. So we choose was. The organization of taxi drivers, so our collective noun here is organization, which is grouping them together and is considered singular, so we choose protests. The majority of courts, so majority in this case is considered plural because it's looking at each court individually. And for that reason, we're going to choose the plural verb have. The staff works or work hard to meet their goals. Because it has this their goals, what it's saying is it's looking at the staff as a group of individuals. And since it's looking at them as more of a plural noun, we're going to choose the plural verb work. My suggestion when you're dealing with confusing case 3 is to really consider if they're looking at the group as a unit or a group as a set of individuals. If you're still a little confused with that, you can check out these examples that I have listed here in italics, and that can usually guide you in the correct direction. Let's look at confusing case 4. There are situations where words appear to be plural, but they are actually singular. Some examples of those would be anybody, anyone, anything, and any variation of that with every, no, and some. Also each, either, neither, other, and one. Also, groups of individuals or a subject that has S in the end, possibly, but really it's referring to one particular grouping. Athletics, bouquet, civics, dollars, for instance. And distances, periods of time, and sums of money. Let's look at some examples. Every one of the shirts has or have a green color. Every one. I'm going to ignore this. Every one, that's singular, has a green color. Each of the dancers twirls or twirl beautifully. Each, that's singular. Ignoring this, each twirls beautifully. Either of the answers, either is our word that we're going to have the verb agree with. We're going to ignore answers. Either is correct. Again, if you read the sentence the whole way through, either of the answers is correct. It might sound kind of strange to your ears, but it is grammatically correct. One of the boxes, one, was already opened. That bouquet of flowers, bouquet, smells lovely. 3 miles, miles, even though it has an S on the end, it's considered singular because it is one chunk of a distance, is too far to walk. So these are good ones to lock into your memory. These words that appear to be plural but are actually singular and therefore require a singular verb. The last confusing case is words that appear to be singular but are actually plural. So the flip of confusing case 4. We have words that are actually plural, such as both, few, many, number, several, and some other words about objects like scissors, glasses, or depending on where you live, you might call it spectacles, trousers, or maybe you call it pants, pliers. That is, of course, unless it's preceded by the word pair of. Let's take a look at some example. Few knows, know what it really takes to get ahead. Few is one of the words that appear to be singular, but it's actually plural. Because few is plural, I'm going to choose the plural verb know. Few know what it really takes to get ahead. A number of suggestions. It appears to be singular, but it's actually plural. Were made. Several. It is actually plural. Indicate that they will be late. My glasses, that is plural, are on the bed. Even though it's one set of glasses, they're on the bed. Now, if it said, my pair of glasses, then we would choose is on the bed. I know that this is a little confusing, hence the name Confusing Case 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I'm going to provide a link to this document with the answer key in the notes below. I'm also going to provide links for other free resources that can help you with not just subject-verb agreement in English, but also any of your other confusing aspects of English grammar. Enjoy!